think one of the few pieces of tech that I've always wanted, but I've never actually gotten one for myself, would be a projector of some kind. I'm a big sports fan. The idea of having a room or somewhere with a big projector screen and a projector to watch sporting events just sounds absolutely awesome to me. But of course, if I'm going to get a projector, I'm not going to get some big thing, some big giant projector thing. I want something weird, something small, something portable. And that is why when this company reached out to me to see if I would review their Pico projector, I was immediately interested. Today, we're going to be looking at this, the Yaber Pico T1. Right now, at time of filming, it is on sale 27% off for $399. And what this thing is what you see. It is a small, portable Pico projector. Evidently, it is capable of a short throw, so it doesn't need to be far away from your projector. It's got a cool little stand. I think there's a speaker built in there. There's all kinds of good stuff. And of course, I do have it here in my hands. It was just now delivered. So what I'm going to do right now is we're going to switch to the overhead camera, and we're going to unbox this thing and yeah, see what it looks like before jumping into a demo and actually fully reviewing the thing. Let's actually look at the box first, because that's always fun, right? Pico T1 projector, and it says Yaber there on the box. Only half an inch thick, 540p resolution, which I think on projectors is actually pretty fine. I don't think that they typically like go super, super high. Maybe I'm wrong. Ultra thin and light plug and play, native 540p, multiple connectivity, lots of stuff in the box. A projector, a tripod. There's a power bank in there to power the thing. So there's not a battery, I guess, in the projector. So you can either plug it into like a an adapter or use this power bank. I wonder how long that power bank will actually keep this thing going. Very interesting. Need to find that out. Remote control, C to C cable. That is actually smart. Actually, I think that's an A to C cable, but still, whatever. If it charges, if it's a C cable, we're in good shape. There's a charger. There is a C to C cable, organizer, HDMI cable. There's so much stuff in here. This is like a ton of things in this box. Seems like it's pretty well equipped. We'll set the box over there. Ooh, look at that. This is a rather nice little carrying case, and everything appears to just be in there. The details, guys, this actually feels like almost like a suede kind of material. This is like way nicer than I would have expected it to be. This is pretty cool. Okay, let's open this up. And what do we have in here? So it looks like here is, I mean, look, this, okay. I'm just kind of like jazzed up over this thing, but everything is stored in here really, really nicely. So that's probably our power bank, 10,000 milliamp hour power bank, HDMI cable. Looks like some paperwork, maybe some instructions. Okay, paper stuff in there, extra storage, cable, stand, charger, controller. So let's start going through some of this stuff. Let's look at this power bank first, because this is actually rather important. Oh, look at that. It's got your cords right there on them. There's lightning, and there's USB-C, and there's another USB-C, and a USB-A. I don't know what that is. It almost looks like a screen, but there's no indication of exactly what's going on there. But that is not too bad. I do also want to point out that that is, in fact, a screen, and you can see that I'm at 71% charge. I'm actually charging this thing, so that is pretty neat also. And it looks like it outputs at 20 watts, which actually really isn't terrible. So that's pretty cool to have. Okay, let's jump over here and let's look at the controller. Pretty basic little controller there. Let's pull this thing out to actually have the battery be connected. It looks like I need to turn it and then pull that out. Just a little CR 2025. Unfortunately, I wish it was a CR 2023. Those do tend to be easier to find. I think I have a few of those laying around the house already, but the 2025 is fine. So there you go. There's your controller, ready to rock and roll. Magnetic stand, we'll pull that out. And this is the projector itself. And wow, you can tell, I really don't think there's a battery in here because it is preposterously light. Wow, it is like, there's nothing to this thing at all. We do have some plastic on here to take off, though. I don't like the material that it's made of. That is going to be a fingerprint magnet, but whatever. I'm assuming we have some like capacitive buttons here. So there's home, back, probably multitasking, maybe like settings, and maybe like a trackpad maybe or something like that. On the bottom here, we have HDMI. That's probably power, and then that is a USB-C, and then there's your projector up top. A little dial over here on the side. There's a little dial here on the side, which might be for like focus, which I ironically just lost, power button, and then volume rockers on the other side. So really not much to it. I do want to point out this nifty looking little tripod. So you set this thing up like this. It's got a little ball mount there, and there is a spot on this thing that is magnetic. And so you can just set this thing up like so. Not the strongest connection, but I think it'll do the job just fine otherwise. All right, so we are both rocking and rolling here. We are set up in the living room. This is a 100-inch projector screen. And as you can see here, it is pretty much not visible at all with the lights on in the room. This is not like the crazy bright room. There's lamps on either side of the TV. There's a lamp on the back wall. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring the lights down so that you can actually see what this thing looks like. I just wanted to kind of demonstrate here that, you know, a proper large projector, not one of these Pico projectors, does seem to, you know, do a better job in these scenarios where there is a lot of background light. Something like this, you know, it says it can go up to 120 inches, but at that distance, it's going to have to be pretty doggone dark in that room to make that work. So let's switch these lights off. All right, with those lights turned off, this is what we have. It's definitely a lot better than it was before. I'm going to kind of zoom in just a little bit. Maybe you can see on some of this text here, the kind of quality, the kind of clarity that we're looking at. It's honestly, it's okay. It's not the greatest thing I've ever seen. I mean, you would probably be struggling to read this text. And yes, I have done everything I possibly can to focus this thing, to get it into a good place. But unfortunately, it kind of just is what it is, okay? The picture quality isn't going to blow you away. It's not going to win any awards. But for something that's in such a small package, it does an overall reasonable job. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to try my best to let you hear what the audio sounds like, bearing in mind that this projector is probably about 10 feet away from where this phone is filming the screen. So let's do that now. Don't break my phones, don't break my devices. And so that's, you know, been part of the course here. You can probably tell here as I move it around, no obvious scratching on the... So that's pretty much the maximum volume. It's tinny. It's not a super loud speaker. So in this instance, what you're probably going to want to do, this is the main menu as well as I'm doing this, you're probably going to want to go into your settings and go over to Bluetooth. And what I've done is I have actually paired it with the sound bar, as you can see Vizio up there, the sound bar that I use in my living room. So we are now connected to that. Let's go back home. Let's go back into this. And yes, this is going to work a lot better. They're a little oversaturated at times, but broadly speaking, I do think it does a pretty good job, and the Fold 4 does take a step. So at that point, obviously, the sound is a lot better, but it's Bluetooth audio, and guess what that means? It means it's not perfectly in sync. There is definitely a delay, so you're kind of stuck either having like bad audio or slightly delayed audio, neither one being really optimal. So here's something that I just cannot figure out. You can tell, I'm sure, that this thing is like way out of focus. And we used it last night. We were watching the Video Game Awards, so you can probably figure out by that when some of the stuff was filmed. And so we were like, okay, we'll use the projector to watch the Game Awards. It's going to be cool. I've got the projector up on top of that thing. I figure I can just leave it up there, you know, for the most part. And during the show, it's a fairly long show, on a couple of occasions, I was like, man, I'm out of focus. I had to get up there and fiddle with that little knob to get things back in focus. And now, you know, overnight, it's just sat there overnight, and it has completely lost focus. Now, obviously, the focus thing is only really a problem if you plan on leaving your projector in one place for a decent amount of time. If you're basically not using it like it's a portable projector, that's going to be annoying. But if you're, you know, pulling it out of the carrying case to set it up to use it every time you use it, you're going to be finding focus anyways. And on top of that, you know, this morning I loaded it up and it was only slightly out of focus. So I really don't know what's going on there. It's been absolutely stationary, and yet sometimes it just kind of wanders out of focus. Not really sure what to make of that, but it's definitely worth passing along. So before we go any further and we look at the user interface of this device, I have to address something here that I think is kind of the elephant in the room of this device. You see, when they emailed me to review this thing, I did what I think any reasonable person would do when they're researching a device, and I Googled it. So let me just kind of replicate that process here for you now. We're searching Yaber Pico T1. Okay, now the first thing that pops up here is an Indiegogo page. So let's go look at this Indiegogo page really quickly. And as we look at it, it is clear that this is the exact same device that I was sent. It looks absolutely identical. But let's keep scrolling down. Now you'll see that they have embedded several different reviews for this device. So we're just going to pick one at random and we're going to scroll ahead a little bit. Let's actually open this up on YouTube so that you can see a bit larger and a bit more clearly. So let's pause it there. What you can see here is the user interface. And what you're going to notice here is that you have home, you have all sorts of different options, and maybe they go through these as we go, but there's a lot going on here. And you definitely have access to the Google Play Store, and you have access to different applications. This might be a better one here. So home, favorites, you can see going into, I believe the next one here is apps. And you can see, hey, Netflix, YouTube, Prime Video, all this stuff is on this device. And in fact, if you go back on Google and you start looking at written reviews, let's go to SlashGear, let's go to GSM Arena, you're going to see that exact same setup. You're going to see them on all of these reviews showing their app store, which is not, I don't think it's technically the Google Play Store, it's a proprietary app store, but it does have access to Netflix and Hulu. You see all these things, okay? Let's go to SlashGear, and of course, you can download third-party apps and games from Yaber's App Store. Now, why am I mentioning all of this? The ability to go to a store and download applications, Netflix, Hulu, YouTube, whatever it might be, is probably the most important thing for a really small portable projector to be able to do, right? Because if you're having to plug stuff into the HDMI port in the back, it's not that portable anymore, right? You have this really portable projector, but then you have to bring, you know, a Roku or a Chromecast that needs external power as well. And no, I've tested this. You cannot use that battery bank to power a Chromecast and this device. It seems to not be enough power. So it's super portable. But if you need to bring something with you to plug into it, that portability really doesn't make any difference anymore. Now, we're going to talk in a moment about actually using your phone as, you know, the media source, either through wirelessly casting or through plugging it in. And there are major problems with both of these. So you are going to wind up either using apps or plugging something into it. Well, here is the elephant in the room. This version of the device that they sent me does not have apps. Now look, I know what you're thinking. Shane, you just showed us 2 websites and 2 reviews, both with the Yaber Pico T1 as the subject. The exact same device, it looks identical to what you just showed us, and it had apps. Why on earth would yours, the one they sent you, not have apps? And that is a phenomenal question. And in fact, I had to send an email back to them to get clarification on this. And apparently, no, this was no mistake. There are actually 2 versions of this device. So there is the version that is available on Indiegogo, Yaber Pico T1 projector. Now this does not have that power bank, and it is $359, and it will have apps. I just closed out of that. Let me go back. What am I doing? See all options. Then there is another version that has the battery bank, and it is $387. Again, it does have apps. Then there is the version on Amazon that has the battery bank, but does not have apps, and it is $399 with an $80 off coupon, so $319. So those are our versions. Now, the problem here is that you can't say it's a Yaber Pico 1 mini pocket projector, and then over here say it's a Yaber Pico T1 mini pocket projector, and yet they are 2 distinctly different products with 2 distinctly different feature sets. Now, the response from Yaber was that internally, they refer to the one on Indiegogo that has apps as the T1S. Well, the problem here is that you don't refer to it as that externally. You refer to them as being the same exact thing. So perhaps a normal consumer goes to Indiegogo, they scroll down, they see this for $359, and then they think, oh, I don't want to buy it from Indiegogo, I don't have an account here, whatever it might be. I use Amazon. So they go to Amazon and they search, they find the exact same product, they see, oh, there's a coupon, it's actually cheaper on Amazon, they order it, and maybe they've even read reviews, right? So they were on the Indiegogo page, or maybe they just Googled it and they watched these reviews, they saw all these apps, they bounced to Amazon to buy it at their preferred purchasing place, they get it, and they don't have apps. They don't have the product that they thought they were getting. This is extremely confusing, and this is, honestly, no matter what I think about the projector going forward, which we'll talk about that at the end, I don't actually dislike the projector even without the apps. It's pretty decent. This is a problem. and whether they need to go and fix the Indiegogo listing or they need to go and fix their Amazon listing. They got to do one or the other, because this is not good for consumers. This is confusing, and people are going to buy this thinking they're getting something else, and they're going to get burned. So let's really quickly kind of demo what this thing's menu, what this home screen, your operating system is capable of. So far left there is HDMI, really, really simple. You click on that and that's going to load up whatever's plugged into that mini HDMI port. Right now it's a Chromecast and that works just fine. The next one is something, if my controller will respond, is something called Screencast. Now in Screencast, there are several different options. One is called eShare. It says through the eShare application, you connect to the same wireless network to realize wireless screen transfer. It's some sort of screen mirroring software, but they're directing you to a website to download it. Let me show you what this eShare thing actually looks like. I'm back here next to the projector so that I can do this. I'm going to plug my phone in and we're going to see what this does, because it's rather strange. You can see that I am, everything's fine, we're in focus, everything's fine. Now watch what happens. For whatever reason, it only displays in the very middle of the screen, and it is very, very not in focus. I don't know what's going on here, and I actually tried plugging in my Pixel 7 Pro, and it did nothing. It just would not even display. So the eShare thing seems to be very strange. It is strange that you're downloading it from a website, and that the Google Play Protect pops up and actually says this is an old program and might not be secure. So not sure that I can recommend downloading the eShare app. I'm going to uninstall it from my device now. The next one says Android Wireless. And this is another one that it doesn't really say much. What I can kind of show you here is how this works. You can, I believe, select that, and then Miracast is what pops up. So you'd hope this was just straight up standard Chromecast, but it isn't. So what you get is Miracast, and then on your phone, this might be difficult for me to show you guys, you'll see there Android blah, 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 blah there at the top. I'm going to connect to that, and we'll see what happens here, because it's not what I would hope it would be. So I've now connected to it. And this is my Surface Duo that I'm using. Yeah, I'm a weird Surface Duo user. And that's kind of what we have here. So at this point, yeah, look, if you wanted to go wireless, you could open up an app and play a video like that. If I can speak, there's a little bit of adhesive there on the bottom. But I go pretty light on my phones. I don't break my phones. I don't break my device. Obviously, there's some weird latency there. There's some weird crackling in the audio. If I skip ahead where there's a part where you can see me talking, you can probably see they weren't very good. I kind of disagree. They're a little oversaturated at times. But broadly speaking, I do think it does a pretty good job, and the Fold 4 does. That's not really great. And I've tried other phones, and they all kind of work like that, which is not the best I've ever seen. I don't know how usable that really is. AirPlay, I'm assuming this is an Apple-specific thing I'm unable to test. Apple wired, same thing. Here's another weird thing, though. If you simply plug your phone in with a C-to-C cable, it's going to pop up and try and load up a website on your phone to download this eShare app. You can download it. You get a security thing pop up on your phone, more than likely, saying this is an old app and it might not be secure. All of this is very not what you'd want to be happening. Makes you feel a little weird about downloading it. And then when it does it, I'm not going to show you this because my projector is kind of set up in a spot. But the screen it casts is itty bitty teeny tiny and super blurry and just awful. So the idea of plugging your phone in and casting it, maybe with an Apple phone it's better. With Android, man, wirelessly it's not great. Wired, it did not work well for me either. And I tried this with my Duo. I tried this with my Pixel 7 Pro. Plugging in a Samsung phone with DeX did load up DeX, and that might be okay to you. But in general, using your phone as a way to get media playing just really did not work all that well for me. Let's go back to the home screen. There is a file manager, so there is some internal storage here. It says SD card, but I'm not aware of an SD card slot on it. Maybe I can correct that with some text on the screen. But there is internal storage. Under settings, you have your Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. There are settings for projection, which is something I have obviously done here. You can do your own keystone correction, brightness adjustment. Yes, my brightness is cranked to the maximum. Date and time, wallpaper, you can change language, about us, and other. There's some interesting things in here, though, that I might have mentioned in another part of the video, but we'll kind of talk about it again here. Clearly, it does say Android is version 9, which is quite old, but whatever, it is still Android. 32 gigs of storage. And then there's an option for USB update. I cannot find anything anywhere about an update for this device, but that is there. Under Other, Factory Reset, and Application Settings. Again, I might have mentioned this earlier, but I can visually show it to you now. Here are all your Android apps, and if you scroll down, you will see that the Google Play Store is on this device, yet it is absolutely not accessible. So I do not understand why this device cannot go to the Play Store and download apps and then circumvent some of the biggest shortcomings with this device, which is the fact that you really are going to have something plugged into it to get any use out of it all, which makes it a whole lot less portable. Very confusing, very strange. So where does that leave us with the Yaber Pico T1? Now, I've said some negative things, right? I've talked about their Amazon listing, about how it could potentially be misleading. I've talked about the fact that you're going to have to, realistically, you're going to have to plug an external device into that HDMI to be able to, get some decent looking content playing through it. Using my phone was just a no-go for me. I've talked about the fact that the speaker, it's about what you would expect from a device that small. It sounds about like a phone speaker. You can do Bluetooth audio, but there is a little bit of a delay. So those are kind of the negatives. All that being said, I've actually kind of enjoyed the thing. Now, that might all sound a little bit crazy, but I'll kind of explain what my setup has been and what I've been using it for and why it's been enjoyable for me. So I took that little carrying case and I basically tried to use nothing out of it, okay? I've left the battery bank in there. I've left everything in there except for the projector and the little magnetic stand. And then what I did is I got a place in my living room to kind of set it up where it could be somewhat permanently there. I ran my own power supply. I ran a power supply to a Chromecast that I plugged in, and I have just left it there in that spot. And my thinking is if I just leave it there, that's fine. And then if I want to take it with me, I just unplug those two cables from it and stick it in the bag and off I go. So I'm trying to kind of manage the fact that I have to have something plugged into it, which makes it less portable. With it being a portable device, I'm going to want to be able to toss into a bag and take with me. So that's the balance you kind of have to find for yourself, I think. Honestly, I think the best solution is to go buy yourself a cheap Chromecast and just keep it in that little pocket inside. Use the battery bank to power the Pico projector itself and use that little charger that comes with it to power your Chromecast. Now, that is going to require you have the ability to plug it into a wall somewhere. So if you're out camping, that might be off limits. You may wind up just having to plug your phone into it and just dealing with what, in my experience, was a very poor picture quality, kind of a poor experience. I used it the other night to watch a UFC event. And you know what? Honestly, it was pretty solid. It was actually a pretty fun way to watch the fights. And after a couple of minutes, I mostly stopped noticing the fact that when somebody would throw a punch or a kick, I'd see it land and then I would hear it land a half a second later because my sound bar is Bluetooth and there is a slight delay. All in all, it was still okay. Now, look, at 100 inches, you're going to have the room pretty dark. Dark enough that, like, I'm probably not going to have friends over to watch a football game so we can all sit in a dark room together. It might be a little bit odd, a little too intimate for my liking. I would like to have something with a little bit more brightness. But if it's you and your wife, you and your significant other, whatever it might be, and you don't mind being in a little bit of a dark room, you're going to be able to get some enjoyment out of this thing. And then the fact that you can take it with you, it might make for an interesting product. Now, I do want to talk a little bit, very briefly, because this video is getting very, very long, about some of the competitors for the Yaber Pico T1. And we're going to kind of use a couple of tools here. So first off, Projector Central is awesome. This is the Yaber Pico T1, and we're going to pump this thing up to 100 inches. And it says, yeah, you're going to need to be 8-9 feet away. That's about where I was, probably 9 and some changes from the distance. And down here at the bottom, it says it is 4FL. That stands for foot lumens. And basically what 4FL means is that you're going to have to turn your lights all the way down to have a good picture quality. That is absolutely my experience. Now, if we drag this down until we are at a place where, yeah, okay, low ambient light, it's going to be watchable about right here, you're looking at 49 inches. So that's not much bigger than a big TV. In fact, my TV is bigger than that in and of itself. So in low ambient light, 49 inches is pretty much where you're going to be. Now, I also want to talk about some of the competitors here, and we'll compare it using this tool as well. My mom actually had an Anker Nebula Mars 2, which I think is actually discontinued now, but you can still buy it for $549. There's a $100 coupon, so $449. And what did we say this thing costs now? $319. So you can kind of judge that price difference there. And then let's look at this. So this is a trailer to a game. This was in low ambient light, right? So we were taking this and saying 100 inches, 4FL, That's where we were. Now, that is the Yaber. This is the Mars, okay? It is considerably brighter. It is not quite, and we can go back here and pull this up here. The Mars 2, it was not the Pro, just the regular one. Now, let's crank it up to 100 inches, and we are looking at 7 foot lumens. So it's not quite double the brightness, but you can see there for yourself that in low ambient light, the Mars 2 is almost doable, but the Yaber is certainly not doable at all. Now, there is quite a bit of a price difference there, right? So we are undercutting that. I also want to point out that the Mars 2, the App Store is apparently broken now. I ran an update, and now I can't get into the App Store, and there's a bunch of apps missing, so I was having to basically plug something into it as well. The casting was Miracast. It was the same kind of situation as with the Yaber, so you would be plugging something into it as well. Now, the speaker also was quite a bit better on the Nebula projector there, but I think if you keep that in mind, you can see for $319, yeah, you're stacking up against some of these other projectors quite well. You know, look, this is 100 ANSI lumens. That's going to be dimmer than the Yaber for $223. For $469, yeah, 200 is brighter, but it's also quite a bit more expensive. So you can kind of see where their pricing actually does make some sense. So all in all, I actually do think it's a pretty cool product. I love the carrying case. I love that you can just kind of keep everything in there. I do wish we had access to those apps. We're running Android, guys, so why can we not run Android apps on the device? That is very, very curious to me, and it really hamstrings the device a lot. If this thing just had the apps on it, man, maybe just go to the Indiegogo and buy that one instead. I mean, it's a little bit more expensive, but trust me, it would be worth it to have those apps on it. There's one on Amazon. If you're cool with the fact that you're going to have to plug probably a Chromecast or something into it, and you're cool with having to plug that into a wall because the power bank, I should say, can't power both, then I think you're going to be pretty happy with this thing. The price makes sense. The performance is about what you would expect for that price. It's a pretty decent product. I just wish we didn't have all this other baggage along with it. Big shout out to Yaber for sending the thing over for me to review. As always, they are seeing this review at the exact same time that you are seeing. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe on your way out. I'll see you on the next one. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.